folks, and welcome back to a team review. It's Force India this time. It's episode 6, and I hope you enjoyed our last episode with Saber. And we've Ben again, so say hello, Ben.
Buongiorno.
That's a very nice Italian remix. But we're going to get straight into it because I don't like to fanny around. That might sound a bit wrong, but oh well. I'm going to ask you the first question. And what do you think, because Paul di Resta had 4 retirements on the trot this year: Belgium, Italy, Singapore and Korea. What do you think of that?
Well, it obviously shows... I mean, when it happens 4 times, it's not a coincidence. I don't know really what was going on in his head. But, I mean, Italy wasn't his fault. I just think he was really unlucky. The majority, and Belgium, I really felt for him because of his...
Maldonado just smashed into him.
Well, yeah, and also he was so close to getting pole in Belgium, and that would have been the biggest moment in his career.
Yeah.
And I'm getting an echo from your mic a little bit, but...
Sorry.
Yeah, it was just really unlucky, to be honest, and I think most of them weren't his fault, but it's just not a coincidence sometimes when it happens 4 times in a row. So,
yeah,
I'm going to ask you the next one.
Yeah.
If you want to say something about that, then you can.
Yeah, I was just going to say, yeah, just reiterate what you basically said. It's obviously not a coincidence, was it really, that he got 4 times in a row, but if you have to look at it, Belgium and Italy weren't his fault. Singapore, meh. But I think he got into his head after Belgium and Italy. He just got a bit down, and I think, I know it sounds silly, but like in a league, yeah, if you're in a league race and you've retired twice in the trot, you're thinking, I can't be able to do this anymore. So that's probably might be what he's thinking. You lose confidence, but that's all I have to say about that. So if you want to ask me the next question.
Alright, so what do you think about their double sacking of the drivers?
I know it sounds silly, but I think it's good. Some teams like Force India are a growing team. They've not developed yet. They're still developing, even though they've been in the sport for quite a number of years now. I think it was time for a change. Di Resta's been there for years, and he hasn't really proved anything. His debut was on Australia 2011, and he hasn't had a podium. He hasn't had a pole position. He hasn't had a win. You might say, well, that's because of his car, but he just hasn't. There's been a couple of performances where he's finished 4th, 5th, in Singapore and Bahrain, but I just don't feel he's had 3 years. I think the team have got experience in somebody else. And somebody like Adrian Suttil, he's been in the sport, since Australia 2007, and he took that year out, and I think coming back was a risk because if you've only had a year out, it's tough because you've got to get back used to the car. Obviously, I think he wasn't in 2012, so you've got to get used to KERS, and the DRS and the some of the regulation changes. So it is going to be hard for Suttil, but he just didn't really, either of them didn't really show, how good they were. But the people that are coming in, Hulkenberg and Sergio Perez, I'm delighted because Hulkenberg I think he's one of the best drivers on the grid at the moment. Some of his performances last year were absolutely top notch. The Sabre was terrible compared to the Force India. But what happened in Korea? 4th place, held behind 3 world champions. He held behind Lewis Hamilton. Was it Alonso as well? I think it was somebody else, but I can't remember who. But I know it's Hamilton. And he kept fighting. And he had that determination. And I know that Nico's got that determination to keep pushing, and just keep going. But some people might say, well, why has he gone back to Force India? Well, the car's developing, like I say. And with such a good teammate like Sergio Perez, I think he'll succeed. And with Perez also, I think he's been very unlucky at McLaren, really. He thought he was going into a top car. I think Button thought he was going to be in a top car this year also. But we'll talk about that a little bit more later. But it turned out to be a rubbish car, and I felt McLaren were a bit disappointed by just sacking Perez after 1 season. So I'm delighted he's gone to Force India. A very new start for Force India, and I hope they do well. I think they will. I think they'll do well next year. So, anything you want to add?
No, you pretty much said it all.
So, what did you think after the ReviewTIJ change? Did they have a downfall for Force India at the second half of the season?
Well, if you looked at the pure results, you would have to say yes. But if you think about it, I think one of their highest scoring races was in Abu Dhabi. So, you know, they definitely scored the majority of their points in the first half of the season. They were even challenging McLaren for their constructors' position, and I think they really thrived off the failures, I guess you could say, of Williams and McLaren. They picked up those positions, and in Bahrain they got a fourth. Paul di Resta got a fourth in Bahrain. So
followed it up with a seventh in Spain as well, and then
exactly, and he was consistently scoring points up until Great Britain or the UK.
I mean, if you look at it, he scored. I can't think how many points it was, but he got 5 consistent points finishes. Bahrain 4th, Spanish Grand Prix 7th, Monaco 9th, Canada's not 7th, and Britain 9th. And to be fair, in Germany, only purely missing out by a touch, finishing 11th. So he did pretty well, and then the 4 retirements happened after Hungary.
And Sutil did the same. He scored a good majority of points in the first half of the season. Got 5th in Monaco.
No. If you look at it, he outperformed for the rest of the first race, finishing 7th. And then obviously they had a double retirement in Malaysia, and then Sutil retired again. So he retired twice. And then while Paul di Resta was scoring points in Bahrain and Spain, he finished in 2 13th places, and then out of the blue finished 5th in Monaco. But I think there's quite a few DNFs there, so I'm using that as a kind of an excuse.
Yeah, well, I think it then went all wrong when Paul di Resta had his 4 retirements in a row, and with Sutil only scoring through those 4 retirements that di Resta had in a row, he only got 1 9th position, which was the only points position he had. And that's where it all went wrong, really. In India, they scored some solid points, and in Abu Dhabi, they scored some solid points. And from then on, they didn't score much. But in Brazil, di Resta was pretty close. But yeah, I think you would have to say that the second half of the season was a big disappointment for Force India. Although they still had a good amount of points, and they really outperformed themselves, I reckon, this season.
Yeah, I'd agree. I mean, only finishing behind McLaren is an achievement, isn't it? A massive team like McLaren, to say you're only about 20, 30 points off them. And I think they're delighted to have beat Sauber, Toro Rosso, Williams, all these good teams. They're not at the top yet, but they're doing decently.
Yeah, definitely. So now I'm going to ask you, what you thought their best and worst race was?
Well, looking at points, as you said earlier, Abu Dhabi was probably the best race. Getting a 6th with Paul di Resta, as you might remember. Very good race. And a 10th with Adrian Sutil. Very solid points. I think that's 9 points. But if we go down to individuals, definitely Bahrain for Paul di Resta. He was on for 2nd, I think. And then Grosjean got it. I think he was on for the win, wasn't he? At some point in the race, anyway. But I think his car let him down there. I think he could have actually won that race. But Vettel, Grosjean and Kimi were faster than him and got past. And Sutil's best performance was definitely Monaco, getting 10 solid points for the team, just fantastic. So they are my best and worst races. So I'm going to ask you, finally, what do you think the overall rating for Force India is this year?
Well, I can't actually remember what I gave anybody else. Have you got it noted down?
Just give him a rating.
Alright, okay, I'll give him a rating. I'll give him a rating. I'll have to put them on probably 8.5. 8.5 out of 10, maybe 9. For the team they are, probably 8.5 for the team they are.
8.5?
Yeah, 8.5.
Okay. So that video will end there, guys. Thank you guys for watching this video, episode 6 of the team review series. Thank you, Ben, for coming on again. And we'll see you in episode 7, where McLaren had a pretty bad downfall this year. Thank you guys for watching. Cut.
See you later.